Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Wherever you are in the world today, I hope that all is pleasant for you. And most importantly, my friends, I hope that you are in good health. Once again, my friends, welcome to the Common Sense channel. On this channel, we get to talk about those things that people know, that people have thought about, but don't often have the time to discuss. These, my friends, are the things we talk about here on the Common Sense channel. So, once again, welcome to the Common Sense channel. Today, I want to talk to you about movies and their subliminal messages. I'm one of those people that watch movie and just don't watch them because of all the activities that are happening in them. I don't watch them because of the sentiments. I don't watch them because of the sound effects. I don't watch them because they talk about movies. I don't watch them because of the main character in the movies. I watch them because I'm always looking for those messages, those hidden messages in the movie or movies that people don't normally see or even care to discover in the movie. And for this reason, or for these reasons, I think, honestly speaking, the director of any movies are one of the most brilliant, smart, and intelligent individuals on our planet. We should never, ever, ever take our sights off a movie director. Every movie, every movie, my friends, take it from the Common Sense channel, has a message. The message is sometimes straight to the point, sometimes they are hidden, and then sometimes they are discreet. It is up to you, the audience of that, whoever is watching that movie, to be able to piece together or see what the director or see beyond what the director is trying to show you or the message the director is trying to convey. So today, I'm going to be talking to you about three movies that I have set aside for this video. And the first movie I think is most people's favorite because I've watched this movie for over maybe about 20 to 25 times since it came out. I was a little boy. But then I didn't really understand what the main character was trying to convey. And this movie is no other than Forrest Gump. I know a lot of people will agree with Forrest Gump. And the character he's playing, I'm not going to say the name of the lead actor in it, but Forrest Gump is my favorite movie for this video. One of my favorite movies for this video. And I want to talk to you today, my friends, my viewers, and those people that watch my videos. You know what I do on my channel. I talk about those things that people know, they've thought about, but don't often have the time to discuss. So these are the things I talk about here. So let's focus on Forrest Gump. And I think if you're someone that would love movies, and if you're a fan of Forrest Gump, it's a great movie. It has so many messages in it. I mean, I don't think Forrest Gump is ever gonna go anywhere in terms of classic movies. Forrest Gump is the number one best movie. So, and sometime when I look at the movie and I'm saying to myself, I think we need more Forrest Gump in our world. You know, this is the individual that you can put in all settings. He's a footballer, he's a civil right activist, he's a military, he's trying to save you from yourself and from harm. He's a negotiator. He's a diplomat. He's a peacemaker. He's a lover. How many individuals in our world can play such a role? But Forrest Gump. You understand? And when you look at some of the crises that are going on in our world today, especially the situation in Ukraine and in the rest of the world where there are conflicts, I think this world needs the character in Forrest Gump to be the one to negotiate peace if there's war in any parts of the world. I think Forrest Gump is the best representation of our world today. I can see Forrest Gump going to having a peace talk between Ukraine and Russia, or between Europe and Russia, and saying, hey boys, y'all all come together, let's play ping pong. You know, I can see Forrest Gump just smiling with a look on his face and saying, Mama say life is like a box of chocolate. You know, you get whatever is in there. You don't know what you're gonna get. You know, I can see him playing, using sports to bring countries and people together. You know, I can see him going into these countries where there are wars and situation, mayhem, chaos, and trying to save lives. You understand? There's one scene in Forrest Gump that I think is very significant. And I think and that's the reason why I so much love the character. It was when he was running across America. One day he got up, he said, I'm going to run. And he was running across America. He never looked back. He never looked back. He kept running. And then as he ran, the seasons and time are changing. And not only that, his entire physical appearance is also changing as he's running across America. But one thing he failed to realize as you watched the movie was behind him there were people running behind him as he ran across America. Never realized this. And then as he ran, and then the more he ran, the more the crowd became larger. And what that signified, I'm not the director of Forrest Gump, but looking at that scene, and there are other scenes in there, that shows that our lives are like a mirror, that we may not know that people are watching everything that we are doing, and based on what we are doing, if it's good, it would attract. It's like a magnet. It would attract people. It will bring them to us. Even if we don't know, they're still following our footsteps. And that's the reason why I think what I learned from that movie, Forrest Gump, is we're supposed to be a role model for others. Don't matter what your position is in life. It don't matter what your condition, your socio-economic status is in life. You're supposed to model. You're supposed to be a model, a role model, so that people can follow you. When you say yes, it should be yes. You should stand on principle. And if you look at the character that is Forrest Gump in that movie, it's no other than a significant role model for any society. You understand? And that's what that scene shows. And then it shows that there's another scene in the movie when they went to Vietnam and they fall into an ambush and they were hit heavily by the enemies. And then he went back. He got himself to safety. But he sat down and said, no, I got to go back. I got to go back and check and see. First, his friend, Barbara, This man transcend race. Said, no, I got to go back. And then when he went back looking for his friend, I hope our world can be like that. And went back. And then in the process of looking for his friend, he was able to save someone that never intended to be saved. Even when he said, leave me, I want to be here. He said, no, I got to take you to safety. And ended up saving as many people as possible. And I wish our world can be like that. Save people even if they don't want to be saved. And guess what? If you see towards the end of that movie, the character in the movie is Connor Glenn. He looked at him and said, thank you. Thank you. I never realized what you did for me that day. But now, looking back, thank you for saving my life, for risking your own life to get me to where I am today. And that's what we need in our world. People who are willing to stand on principle, who are willing to do things that will save lives. This was the man, Forrest Gump, the character that looked at something that was happening that was wrong and stood up. There's a scene in the movie, in the civil rights movement, when they refused those black students of entering to that school. Forrest Gump was there again. You see, he was everywhere in the movie trying to show the director is leading you to show this character, that this character is needed. That's the example of what it means to be a citizen, to be a good citizen, to be a good shepherd. And as far as I know, only one individual has been able to do that in all of human history. And it's no other than Yeshua HaMashiach, aka Jesus Christ. To give your life, to give your all for others, even if they don't want it. To play the role that society refused to play, even if they don't see it. Forrest Gump is one of those movies that I think the director was sending us a direct message of love, peace, honesty, sincerity, stability, and genuineness. So that's the message the director was sending in there. Now I want to talk about another movie that I personally didn't really understand when I was growing up. But as I became older, it started to dawn on me. I think I was in high school when I watched it, because I watched that movie more than 20 to 25 times since I was a kid and never really saw what the director was doing in there. I don't hold anything against Eddie Murphy. No, I think he's the greatest comedian, not next to Richard Pryor, but I think he's a great one. But Coming to America and the hidden meaning, the subliminal messages in there, especially when it comes to the representation of the continent of Africa. I've been longing to do a video on this because I feel like the continent of Africa has always had a bad representation. At least some of us now are starting to understand where Africa is. But in the same token, we will do our best. Even if we're criticizing Africa, we want to make sure that that criticism is constructive, which is the best form of criticism you can give to anyone. You're not giving criticism to them to in a condescending way, but you're giving them criticism that they themselves already know. And you're pointing out these areas. And not only that, you're also saying this is where you need to work. And I believe, honestly, Africa has problem, and Africa knows that. Our leader, our leaders in Africa, they know all the solution to Africa's problem. They do. We don't need anything from outside to solve Africa's problem. Africa already knows the problem. The leaders of this country knows. The only thing is they haven't decided to solve it. So, but coming to America, in my view, and some of the subliminal messages in there, is the complete representation of the continent. African royalty, as far as old as I am, I've never seen one that does stuff like what was portrayed in that movie. Because our royalty is based on tradition. And African tradition is the opposite of what was represented in coming to America. I know there are a lot of people may agree with me that are Africans. Nothing against the main actor, Eddie Murphy is great. But everything from him coming from Africa, especially now, to find a bride, our tradition, if your royalty has to come from within, you can check it. Check all the royal families in Africa. You would see that the wife has to come from the people, has to come from that community, has to come from that society, has to come from that tribe, has to come from that culture, has to come. All of them has to come from the community. So if a prince or king is getting married, he's marrying from that society. It doesn't matter what tribe the woman is from. For a prince, an African prince, to say of all the women's in Africa that he would leave all of them and come to a distant land to find a bride that would arouse his intellect, that's a disgrace to the continent of Africa. You want to tell me that the entire continent of Africa cannot produce one good woman that are intellectually sound to arouse your intellect as a prince in Africa? So all of the stereotypes of Africa in the 1920s, maybe in the 1800s of Africa, that movie right there solidify everything. That scene in that movie solidify or disregard all of the work that Sheikh Anta Diop fought for to show that Africans are intellectually capable, I'm talking about male and female, to understand any aspect of the human condition and are capable enough, just like everyone else. That was the work of the great ancestor today, Sheikh Anta Diop from Senegal. You understand? So that scene in and of itself humiliate the African and the continent of Africa. And any black man anywhere in this world, if you think you can extrapolate yourself from the continent of Africa and be respected, you are living in a delusion. If that continent is respected, you, my friend, will be respected. I've said this many times on my channel. There's no way you're going to be respected if that continent is not respected. Like I said initially, Africans And the continent itself, all these so-called leaders in Africa, they know the solution to our problems, but they are not willing to take the necessary steps that are needed to solve them. They do. Sometimes I don't blame them because the continent is still sleeping. The day the continent wakes up, look, every race of people that I've seen today, I've always said, I'm a lover of history, so I dabble into these things, so I know. They're pointing their lives where they were down and they rise up. I think Africa will get there. I'm hopeful. And all of us that love the continent of Africa, we know the time will come. So that movie, the scene that I described in there are others in there that I described. I've never seen, you can check it out. And African prints do that. That's even the country in there. So looking at the movie, in as much as it's fictional, but the message in there is not good for the continent. If you don't want anything to do with Africa, don't denigrate the continent. Don't do it in the movie that the whole world is going to see. And moreover, there are all these stereotypes about Africa, Africans, and the continent at large. We know that. We Africans that live in the diaspora, we already know this stuff. And if you're looking at a pyramid in terms of people who are aligned on the pyramid, it will be like the food chain. The Africans, in my own view, maybe there are other people with different views out there, we're always at the bottom. Yes, we have all these, I don't want to name them on my channel on these videos, but there's just all these things that are stuck up against us that most people don't know. We don't talk about them because we know our plight. We know our place. But we're just hoping and praying. Me personally, I don't pray. Yeah, I just talk to the Creator. I don't pray. I just say, Creator, this is what I want. And this is, I don't want you to physically give it to me. I just want you to give me guidance and the idea to get it myself. And I think that should be your prayer. Everyone should pray like that. Because at the end of the day, it is you that's going to get these things. So that's what we pray for the continent to wake up. But we wouldn't want any kind of movie or any information out there, one with an agenda. We don't want them like people going to Africa taking pictures of children starving and flies all over their faces. We don't want none of these things to be out there for the world to see, because we know that Africa is not poor. Yes, we know. Like me, I want to, if I talk about my own country, my own background, you would know we're not poor. But it's by design. Whatever Africa is going through is by design. And it started, if you want to know from me, it started the moment Marcus Garvey, the Great one, announced that all black people should go back to Africa. That was the beginning of Africa demise. You can watch any documentary on Marcus Garvey, on what I just said, and you will come to one conclusion, because I spent years doing this stuff. I don't just come on my channel and be talking. No, spend a lot of time doing research on this stuff. So that's when our demise started. So the best way not to allow black people to go to Africa is to make Africa look bad. So when Africa look poor, there's war, there's famine, there is human disasters, because we don't have natural disasters like other places. But human disaster, poverty, HIV, disease, war, Ebola, whatever you can think, all the nasty things, all the ills of humanity you hear them coming from Africa. So if you're a sound person that want good things in life, would you want to go to a place like that? So that movie in and of itself did not position Africa. Maybe I may not be the only one to see it this way. There are other people that have seen this aspect of the movie that I'm talking about. But yeah, I've always wanted to talk about it because as I grew older and I thought about this thing, I'm like, oh no. I think it's the time I discovered myself that I realized that, oh God, I can't believe I have so much respect and love for Eddie Murphy. Why would he want to do a movie on Africa? It's not about love. Maybe that's what the movie was trying to portray, some of the hidden messages or the direct message, but I think the scene in there shows that Africa, you can't find good thing in Africa. You know, all the bad things are in Africa. The good things are in other places. You understand? So, like when you watch movie, look for these messages. They are there. Every movie has a message. Once you start to pay attention, don't pay attention to the sound effects. Don't pay attention to the sound of the music in there. Don't pay attention to all the noise going on in there. Just pay attention to the hidden message or messages. I can do this for any movie. But today we're just going to talk about three of them. And they are very important because they show a sense of humanity. That humanity can be good and humanity can be bad. It can represent both. But whatever you do out there, you have to represent humanity. Humanity must be your main focus, not any race of people, ethnicity, their gender. No, just humanity, because that's what we are. We're all humans, you know, regardless of our socio-economic status, regardless of wherever we are from on the planet, at the end of the day, this is one big family. And that's how we should see ourselves. Although people try to divide us, but we should be able to see beyond the division. And I know you know me on my channel, I call out these people, these entities that are dividing us. And I look forward to a day when you can get rid of religion. Religion is not serving a good purpose, which is why Jesus never established that. Yeshua Mashiach never established religion. Religion has nothing to do with Jesus. I can bet anyone on this. You don't bring the scripture because that's Jesus never wrote that stuff. Never. Neither are his disciples. None of them wrote that stuff. But that politics, religion, and the others between are what dividing us. So when you focus on the continent, anyone doing the movies on the continent, give it a good vibe. And that's the reason why I love Nigerians so much. Nigeria is one of the country, I think I just pray to the Creator, the Almighty, that Nigeria wakes up one day, because Nigerians are the most smartest people in Africa. I can say the planet. And no one can dispute that. They are intelligent. Nigeria is the only country on the continent that puts Africa on the map when it comes to movie. Although sometimes they got the newer directors now, they are doing crazy stuff. But the ones that came up in the 90s, they were talking about things that were showing our culture, showing who we are as a people. But when the 2000s came on and into now, it's just, I don't know what they're doing in terms of movies. But in terms of music, the continent is up there. People are knowing Africa today because of Nigeria. And that's the image you want to put out. Whether the music is something else, I don't care much about that. As long as it's giving a good vibe about the continent, it's a great thing. Now we're people too. We love the same thing that other people love. We love to watch movies. We love to watch good movies. And we love to watch good listen to good music and watch movies that look decent. Look at the movies that are coming out of Nigeria today. Whoever is directing this movie, they're clean, they are well presented. That's a good image. And Nigeria is heading that. So we have a solution to our problems. And one day, the day will come, and I think we're closer. Unification will come. We just need to wake up. So that's the reason why I'm doing this. The last movie I'm going to talk about, and this one is very, very important. I don't know if other people see it, but I saw it, and I want to talk about it. And I think it's the great divide between us and Black American. I don't say African American on my channel because I don't think Black Americans are African Americans. They are Black American. I will or is African American. And you can argue all you want. It's true. I'm African American. I'm not Black American. But I don't want to do the division thing. But that's how I see my Black brothers. They are Black American. This is where they were born. Everything is here. And our settings are way different. People don't want to talk about this, but it's true. There's a huge differences between us and African American. But we have something in common. I don't do the Pan-Africanism without focusing on reality, because some people want to do the Pan-Africanism that way. But I did video on this where I said there's a lot of flaws in Pan-Africanism, and I don't think they taught it right. They didn't really think about the idea before even doing it. They should have thought through it before doing it. But this movie, and the reason why I'm bringing all this, you will see, it's called The Black Panther. It's a great movie. I watched it. I think about 3 times. But the hidden message in the movie keep coming out each time I watch it. And this movie shows a huge divide. And this is the divide that we, African and Black American, have been fighting over for a long time. In the 60s, in the 70s, it seemed at some point that we're accomplishing something, because the unification of Black people everywhere in the world, it's not a new thing. It started during Marcus Garvey time. Or I think before Marcus Garvey time, because you had W. Du Bois and you had other people. Like most people don't know, Booker T. Washington has a college in Africa. It's called Booker T. Washington Institute. It's in one of the countries in Africa. Yeah, you don't know that, but if you don't know that yet, but he do have a college institute in Africa. So the ability to connect Black people with Black American is not new. Marcus Garvey was not the champion of that. He just got us in trouble. You understand? So if you're a Marcus Garvey fan out there, I am his fan too, but you need to, look at what he did. Because all the people that would come after him, they tried to do the same thing too. And what happened to them? The power that be, don't want Africa to rise, because it's a great potential. You understand? So that movie in there, whatever the meaning was, but if you look at the movie, you see there are 2 brothers fighting each other. One is on the continent of Africa, and the other one is kind of like he went into I don't know what is this, like a trance, and now he's in Africa, and then Wakanda is going on. And both of them are fighting each other. That entire scene where they're both fighting each other, and in real life, one is African, one is Black American, the other one is African. It's the same fight that we're fighting each other. Black, American, and African. You understand? That's what we're going through today. We cannot unite. And And the reason why we cannot unite is predicated in that movie too. Like some people say, which I think they have a valid point, we sold them into slavery. You know, I've done research on this too, and I discovered some of them to be true. But how long would you continue to wallow in that despair when the best thing to do is to sit down and have dialogue with each other? Nobody make peace without talking to each other. We see in our world today what's happening around the globe. Nobody make peace without talking to each other. None. You know, one of the most deadly wars, I say wars, was World War One and World War Two. Sometimes I don't say World War One because not every country in the world was fighting. I call it European Civil War. They were able to sit down, look at each other, and solve their problem and bring about peace. If Europeans can do that, when they were slaughtering each other at, uh, especially the World War One, that was terrible war. European Civil War number one, terrible. European Civil War number two was terrible because now you're dealing with modern weapons, like what's happening with them. But they can make peace. If they can work towards making peace, why can't we? As black people, as black people, that's our identity. That's our commonality. And if you haven't seen the movie Black Panther, it's a great movie. Go watch it, and you see exactly what. Don't pay attention to all that buildings. These are all fictional things. No one can build a Wakanda in Africa. No one. Well, if anyone tell you they can build a Wakanda in Africa, they're just trying to scam you or get your money. Africa don't need Wakanda. What Africa need is unity, stability, peace, and creativity. That's it. With these things, can rise. So yeah, that movie, I don't pay it, like I told you, I don't look too much into other scene, and this is part of the movie anyway. The director has to add these little piece into it. But the main message is that, and someone was trying to point that out. Someone that cares deeply about the rift between us Africans and black, I don't know, it's still in my tongue, but and black Americans. Because that's how I used to call them. But once I came about knowledge and understanding and deep research into why they became African American, then it dawned on me to say, no, it's not right. But again, those in power, they write the rules. Those who are not in power, they get to accept. That's how the world is. But it doesn't mean because it's on paper that you should accept, because at the end of the day, whatever you are is in your head. If you know who you are, someone can write whatever they want to write about you. It's not going to change. Ireland, Ireland, that's what loved the Irish people. You know, when it came to our country, they were way better than the others. If in our language, our local language, Creole, you can hear most of the terms in there. That's why Creole is the most complex language ever designed, because it has patois in there too. It has everything in there. It has French in there too. English, French, Portuguese, everything mixed in one language called Creole, not the French Creole, the one spoken in Haiti. This is our Creole in Freetown, Sierra Leone. You understand? So yeah, that movie, when I watch it, that's what I saw. That, and it's real. I give the director kudos for that, because he's pointing out what's in there. But people went to watch the movie, or they're looking at the fancy attires they were wearing and how they looked, the Black Panther and all that stuff. But the director was telling you the Black Panther, the real Black Panther, they represented things that were Africans. First off, the Black Panther was all about community, togetherness. That's Africa. That's Africans. And that's the reason why, that's our vulnerability. We're too loving, we're too forgiving. And you see that with our Black brothers in this country too. They're quick to forgive you. You know? And I think that's Africa's downfall. And I think that's the reason why it was easy or easier for them to accept a religion based on forgiveness. But the actual architect of that religion does not forgive anyone. We see in our world today an eye for an eye. You do me, I do you. That's what the African says. You do me, I do you. There's a song on that too. But if you're living in the world where you don't understand these things, you would think that it's okay. You understand that everything is okay, but the world is not what it is. So that movie is telling Africans and African Americans, or Black Americans, like I always like to say, that you have issues with your brothers down there in Africa, and they know it, and they see you different too. And then if anyone tell you Africans don't see African American difference, they're not being honest. We do. I don't. The reason is I done my research. And when I did the research, I became knowledgeable about the plights of our Black brothers here, not just in America now, across the globe. I did research on South America. An entire country in there, the Black resort country in South America, was wipe out Black people just so that there's not trace of them. Imagine who in their rightful mind would come up with a plan to wipe out an entire race of people so that you don't even know they ever existed there. That's an evil person. I recently learned that the first people in the Philippines were Black. And guess what? The Spanish came. And this is true now. Like, there's historical facts on it. You can ask anybody from the Philippines, they'll tell you. And you know what it did? They raped all the women. Look at the Philippines today. You won't even see Black people there, but they are Black. The first inhabitant. Same as Japan too. Same as most of the people in that places in Southeast Asia. So if you understand the plight of Black people, you will do whatever it takes to help bring that community together. So I have love for, I'm upset at what the direction, not now, but in the past, I was not happy with where the continent is going, because I know everything that I will be in this country, if I ever going to get respected. Like I said, you can be a lawyer, doctor, engineer, whatever you want to be. If your name is not English, if you're going to take a lot of energy to pronounce your name, you will never be respected. You will never be known. The only way you can be is when the continent is respected. So whatever you do, always represent. It's just like your community. And when I go out, even where I live right now, I know the people I live around. I always represent. I don't do things that are stereotypical of a Black person. I don't. Not that I don't believe in my freedom to do and live my life the way I want to live. But at the same time, I always feel like someone is watching me, and whoever is watching me has these feelings about me. So I have to always represent not just myself, self-respect, but also those people that are part of my race, you understand, or where I'm from, or the community I represent. So I always try to do these things. I do them knowing that these people are behind me. And I think that's what we need to do. So the director of that movie, I think, was trying to solve a problem, you know. But the best way to do it, in my view, is to have dialogues with each other. Talk. Let's talk about what's, dividing us. But then one thing I've come to realize, that black people in this country are also dividing themselves, because the people in the South are different than the people in the North. The people, I mean black people now. The black people in the East are different than the black people in the North. So you see, right? So it's a huge divide. So just within the America alone, or in the Americas, black people are divided among themselves. So unity, just as how it is in Africa, the issue of unity in Africa is the same issue of unity in this country. So at the end of the day, we black people, we're doomed until we start working on coming together, whether it's black people in this country, forget about Africans trying to intermingle or work with the black people here, just black people within themselves. You know, it was different during segregation, it was different during the 20s, because you have one commonality. When African came into the picture, maybe we'll say early 50s, or let's say early 40s into 50s, 60s, and in the 60s, Africans start to come here, a lot of them. But let's say Africans out of the picture, just black people, just uniting, east, west, north, south. That alone can make a huge change. So yeah, I don't want my video to be long, but yeah, I just wanted to do this video on subliminal messages from a movie. All of these movies have messages, from Forrest Gump to Coming to America and to the Black Panther. They all have messages that are given, that the director's trying to give out. But you have to see it to know what the message the director is trying to convey. And I tell you, there are people that sees that and they know. And when they see this, how do you think a movie would win a nomination award? Because the people that see these things, they already see their message has already been passed. And sometimes they look at it. I mean, the people that nominate these movies, they look at this movie, they say, this is it. I can put my stamp on this. This is the message we want to give out there about the black people in general, about like movies on drug dealers. I mean, if it's indicative of that community, or if it's something that is stereotype of that community, and there's a movie and all the characters in are black playing the role, why wouldn't someone who has an agenda or want to send a specific message put a stamp on it? You see what I'm saying? So anything that's going to give a bad connotation to your community is someone's agenda, and they will put a stamp on it. So when you do things on Africa, it should be great. When you're in a community, you're a black person, black American, and African, represent your community to the best of your ability. Because always know someone is watching. Just like Forrest Gump, when he was running across the United States, you can see as he move along the seasons, the time, he's changing, his beard is growing and he's looking different. And then when he finally looked back, and he saw all these people behind him. That's what your life is. The people behind you watching you. Never forget them. Never forget them. Whatever you do, never forget that they are behind you. You may not see them, but they're there. And then when you say, I am going back, it's time for me to stop, all of them will stop. So they move as you move. So, as I've always done in my movie, the greatest thing that can ever happen to anyone is not the day you were born, not the day you had your first child, the day you graduated from high school, college, the day you became a doctor, lawyer, engineer, whatever you're working on, my friends. The greatest thing that could ever happen to you is the day you discover yourself. Because from that day on, everything will start to make sense to you, including these kind of movies that are depicting you in a negative way. You understand? That are or ones that are trying to give a positive message to the community and want them to listen. I have a discussion about that. Or a movie that try to teach you something about life and humanity. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I want to say special thanks to all those people that watch my videos. I want to say special thanks to those who have remained subscribed to my channel. I appreciate you, including the new ones. Thank you and have a blessed day.